Yo, what's up, everybody? All right, so this is our last breakdown for the year. And I figured since it's the Christmas holiday in America and some other countries, that I would do a breakdown of an adaptation of a popular Christmas carol. So this is Angels We Have Heard on High, and it was for CBS Sports Brief for football. So I entitled it Touchdowns We Have Scored on High. So let's check it out, and y'all know how we do. We'll talk about it on the flip. All right, here we go. All right, so there it is. Touchdowns we have scored on high, epic orchestral, cue for sports. So just a couple of basic things is in F minor, 115 beats per minute. One thing I would say is always try to make sure that, in terms of what instruments you're going to use to carry your melody, make sure that it's a good key for that particular instrument. And you guys know how I do. I love using French horns, especially for epic cues, to carry the melody. So yeah, I use French horns to carry the bulk of the melody. So we wanted to make sure it was in a good, like nice epic key for the French horn. So let's kind of get to it a little bit. So the first thing that I did, and I do this often, is I laid down a scratch piano just to get a sense of like the harmony and the groove. And typically my scratches are about 8 bars, just to get me going, and I'm pretty good from there. So let's just check out this scratch, just so you guys can kind of see my process for kind of getting into cue. And actually, I think, let me go ahead and get that piano. Okay, scratch piano. All right, I thought I'd hidden it, but I didn't. Okay, so here we go here. So just something that I do just to give me a sense of kind of direction. It's kind of my, I don't know, helps me kind of, on my path, or whatever. So I would suggest if you don't do it, not a bad thing to do, just to kind of help give you a guidepost. And the more involved my cues, that it may be a little more involved in terms of what I need to do. But for this was enough to get me going. All right, so as I always talk about, we start this cue with a very quick 2-beat feel. We got a brass run up, some strings that do a run up, and a timpani. I mean, that is it. So we're like 1, 2, ba-da-ga-doom, and we're in to the first verse. So just quickly, so you just hear that. That's it. That's all you need. That's enough to get things established and get us in, right? And so we talked about the horns carrying the bulk of the melody. So let's take a look at those really quickly. What I'm using, I'm not using a whole bunch. I'm using the center brass horn ensemble, and I have that with the 12 horns, center brass 12 horns. And then I also use a 12 horn short articulation along with those longs just to give me a little more definition. So if I play those for you in the melody. And the other thing I want you to notice is you see I took a little liberty with the melody. So just a little liberty. You just heard on the end of that. But now when we get to the second half of the verse, took a little more liberty. So you hear, yeah, I took some liberties, but not so much so that, excuse me, you don't know what the melody is. But it's pretty typical, in a cue like this. It doesn't have to be verbatim, if you will. So just enough to let the people know what the cue is. So again, quick, boom, we're right at it. We're right on the first verse. Excuse me. So we're right on the first verse. We just jump right to it. And so again, we start with the French horn melody. The only other brass instruments that we're using is I have a trumpet that I introduce a little later on in the cue, and my low brass, right? So the low brass, I am using a Brahms one shot. Play that for you. And that particular Brahms is just to kind of give it that edge. You hear that high end, edge to it. And I have that with the BBC bass bones. And then I also use the center brass monster low brass. And all they're doing is laying on that F pedal. Not deep, as I always say, nothing real deep. They're just laying on the F pedal. And then one thing that I really like to do is add guitar as another support element to kind of help support that low, with my low brass. I like doing that a lot. So here's the guitar with it. And it rides out. So just something to add a little more to the bottom of it, and we'll check out the trumpets a little later when they come in on the melody. Now the other thing that we introduce right off, and you guys might be saying, well, why is this white? And typically I just mute it, those parts, and you don't know, like in Cubase, if you want to mute something, it's just Shift M, and if you want to unmute it, it's just Shift U. And then if I want to mute it, Shift M mutes it. And basically I had too much string energy right at the top. And oftentimes when I write a cue, I put everything in and then I start taking stuff out. So instead of just taking it all the way out, I just muted it. So, okay. So what we start with is we have a short string ostinato, and it's the low strings. So. So I just have my violas and my cellos popping away at that. And typically, I like to use the staccatissimo articulation a lot, but in this particular one, I use the spiccato articulation, and I just wanted my strings to have a little more bounce. And in terms of articulation, like spiccato, the strings are playing off the bow. I'm sorry, off the bow is off the strings, as opposed to staccato where the bow is it doesn't come away from the string. So it just gives it a little more bounce, which I think is cool. So we have that, and then the other thing that I have in here that you probably don't really hear, but it's really cool. I have this little Halion synth part in here. And it's just something that gives you like a little flavor, man. You know, adds a little flavor. And y'all keep hearing that. I got like a ping pong or something on ping pong, a delay on that riser. And when I stop it, you're just hearing it back engaged. But yeah, so this Halion, I like this. You know, just something to give us a little, you know, just a little flavor or whatever. It's called Meta Runner. And Halion is a really cool synth. It's stock Cubase synth, but it's really cool. So if you have Cubase, definitely dig into that for sure. And then, you know, I have my 808 bass, not doing like a whole bunch. I mean, real simple. And I do have my bass and kick side chained as well. So just like when my kick is hitting, I do get some gain reduction on my bass. So, and then my drums. And, you know, guys, we always say it is so important. I mean, I can't, you know, stress enough. Make sure your drums are really locked and smacking, especially on these types of cues. So let's play our drums here. And I'm gonna take you out, and I'll take you out. So drums. So you know, it's a basic groove, but like it's just, you know, it's a groove that's really hidden. As you guys, I've said, you know, a ton of times, I love using timpanis in my epic orchestral cues. I think they really help with the aggressiveness. I also like using piatti as opposed to regular cymbals, because I feel like the orchestral cymbals just give you a bigger and a more epic feel. So I'm using the Centipert piatti. I'm using the Centipert timpani as well. And then the go-go gives us that kind of that swing. You know what I mean? Gives us that vibe a little bit. So like the go-go. So just something, and you hear it's in the same key. I just pitched it. I don't know how much. Let's see here. So the go-go. So yeah, you see I had to tune it up 5 semitones to get it in the key. So that's something else as another tip. Like if you're using a go-go or something like that, you can pitch it. So it really now really seamlessly locks in with your groove because it's pitched in the same key. So just something you might want to think about there. And then, of course, you got to have sleigh bells, right? I mean, it's a Christmas cue. I mean, what's a Christmas cue without some sleigh bells? So I excuse me, I actually have 2 different types of sleigh bells kind of playing off each other. So this is one. I have this. And you hear that delay that I have on it. I'll show you that. And then if I add the other sleigh bells in that play off of it. And just a different, you know, a different rhythm, you know, with the two. So they really do kind of play off of each other. And then just so you can see in terms of what I'm doing with that first sleigh bell. I'm sorry, let's get you back up. right? So that first sleigh bell, so you see what we're doing there. So first thing you see, I got it high pass like crazy. I mean, over 2,000 hertz. Is no reason in the world to have all this low end information, in your sleigh bells. It just helps kind of clean everything up. So yeah, I got it high pass pretty aggressively. And then what I'm doing is I have a dynamic EQ just to help, it's a really high frequency that is hitting, and just to kind of help kind of tame that a little bit, you see. So I don't want those really high frequencies popping out. So I just got a little dynamic EQ there, just kind of pulling those back just a little bit to make sure that they're reined in. I actually did an actual insert excuse me, reverb with these, as opposed to using the reverb that I already have set and using my send. I wanted to do an actual reverb right on this particular bus and just use that. So I'm using a Bahala room. I mean, it's not real aggressive, and I'm just using a large room. And then I have, as I said, that stereo delay. And you can see my settings there. So you really hear this half note when it kind of gets over to the right side. You hear that half note kind of just carrying on just a bit there. And then my other sleigh bell, I played for you as well. So as it relates to the first half, that's really it. Besides what you kept hearing was just a little riser ear candy that I have in there, and let me play that for you. Okay, and so you see I have a little reverb on it, but I'm using my send for my reverb, right? And then I have ping pong delay on it, and I have that at a half note. So that's pretty much it. And then you can see what I'm doing here. So in terms of high cutting or low passing it, as opposed to high passing it, and you see where I have it at, and that's about almost a 10K, just to make sure it's just not that super high frequencies kind of popping through there, and that's really it. So it's always good to have a little ear candy. So kind of, if you hear it in with everything. So as we get into the second verse, you hear basically we got a riser that gets us in there. We got a tam tam as well. All these epic type of things that we like to use. Excuse me, and I think we actually have our tam tam come in a little later, but we do have a riser that helps us get into just the second verse, if you will. And then what we do to kind of keep the interest going is now we just layer our strings up an octave. So y'all, this is simple. It's just simple stuff that you really do to kind of keep the interest going. So just going from verse 1, we got the low string ostinato. Verse 2, the only thing is we add we double up, I think, the high string ostinato. We may not have done anything else but that. Yeah. So that's pretty much all we do. I did have a trumpet kind of answering the end of the phrase there, but I decided that it was a little too early for that, so I left it. So if we listen to just kind of getting out of the first verse into the second one. I'm sorry about that ping pong delay. Okay, so I mean that's it. The only thing we did is we layered in some higher strings, of course, and then as we get into the chorus now, you hear that I hand the melody off. I hand the melody off to guitar, glockenspiel, and violins. And some bells, some other bells as well. And we really, what we do though is we just hint at the melody. We don't do like the full melody yet. We hint at it, and then we get right, excuse me, we get right to a breakdown. So in terms of what I'm using, like I said, for my melody, we got glockenspiel. We have guitar. So I have another guitar you see here. We have some bells, some Halion bells that I'm using, and then we do our strings. And you guys see, I'm not breaking it out. I'm using just the full section here, and then I have a marcato with it just to give it a little more definition. But if we hear those together. That's it. So those are our melodic elements, and it's good because what happens is, of course, we keep the interest because we don't want the horns just kind of chugging away the entire cue. It becomes stale, it becomes boring. So we want to kind of switch things up, kind of hand some things off. Or whatever. And then what I do, so since I have the horns now not playing the melody, they have a small counter line that comes in right before we get to the breakdown. So let's play that. Listen out for the horn counter, and then we just go to a breakdown, which is nothing but dropping things out. We got our 808 and our drums kind of rocking before we get back to the verse. So here we go. So again, you hear that we quickly do a breakdown. I mean, it's a 2-bar breakdown, but just something, again, kind of shifts the interest a little bit, gives us a little rest before we go back in. And now we have our tam-tam here. And let me make sure you can see that. Right. Okay. So now we have our tam-tam here along with a riser. So we got the tam-tam, we have a riser, and then we got a piatti. Well, we have our tubular bells, very important in epic. I love my tubes, right? So we have our tubular bells, and then we have our piatti. These are the transitional elements to kind of help us get into the section. And then, of course, the tubes and piatti just, boom, accent once we do get into the section. So here we go. So just something to kind of get in there. And I don't know why, but I love using effects on my risers and things of that nature. I like using ping pong or, other very stereo delay, all kinds of stuff when on my risers and stuff. So, and there you have it. And then, so when we get into this verse, coming back into the verse, now what we do is we go to the verse one more time, but now we do a call and response of the melody between the horns and the bells, right? That gives us a little more dimension. It makes this verse different than the other verse. And we add the trumpets on the last half of the verse just to give it a little more dimension as we get ready to move into our very last chorus. So let's play this verse. Listen out for those elements. So listen out for the call and response. Listen out for the trumpet that we added, and then we walk into our last chorus. Okay, so you see now, to get into our last chorus, right? You'll notice a couple of things. So this time I did a different walk, with my bass, to get us into this last chorus, and then I reintroduced our drum fill. So that drum fill that we had at the top of the cue, now it helps get us into the last chorus, right? And now this chorus is extended. So we take just this, a little bigger. This chorus is a little more extended, and then we actually add the In Excelsis Deo part at the very end, right before our button. So let's get that walk up from our bass, that drum fill. What else do we have? We got another tam tam, kind of just getting us into that nice big Piatti hit, and of course another riser that gets us into this for our last section. And I'll play the whole section for you with the In Excelsis Deo. And then you also hear that we bring the trumpets back for the very end for the In Excelsis Deo part and for the button. So here we go. I mean, and there it is, right? So it's just a way that you can really creatively go about adapting, say, a Christmas carol for sports. So it's not about, and this is something I had to learn when I first got into sync, is that it's not about like taking the entire carol and just kind of writing out the entire carol, because I did another another carol, a sports cue or whatever, but it's more about, and this the way I was taught, it's more about thinking about like, you're sampling or whatever. So you got different sections, that you're putting in and pulling out and so on and so forth. And you're really just trying to drive home the idea of what the cue is. So there you have it. Again, like I said, it was for CBS. So look, so hopefully, when I come back after the holiday, I can let you know, you guys know whether or not it made air. So hopefully it'll make air Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But we'll see. And if not, hey, it's in their system, and at some point I'm sure that it will. So I hope that if you do celebrate Christmas, I hope that you do have an amazing Christmas. Hope you have a great break. You're able to get some rest and relax, a little bit. And as always, I appreciate you guys checking me out. I appreciate you rocking with me for, I think I came on in like February. So, man, so almost the entire year. Those of you that's been rocking with me, and those that have, come along the way, I'm really excited about the channel, the way the channel is growing. So I appreciate you guys. And I'm looking forward to 2024, man. I got a lot of cool stuff going on. I'm working on like a superhero and a villains album for one of my libraries. Got some other really cool stuff going on as well. So I've got some cool stuff that I'm excited to share with you as we get into 24. But until then, certainly enjoy the rest of your year. I hope you have an amazing new year as well. And I look forward to checking back with you in 2024. So as always, thanks for watching. Peace and God bless.